Let's discuss who are developing games, because often I would make videos and I would talk about rights to IPs, intellectual property, and game studios such as for example Ubisoft, Bethesda or BioWare. And one person in the comment section under one of my videos have made an interesting point a while ago. Quote, "When you finish a game, read the names in the credits, because, caps lock, that is who, caps lock, made the game, not the quotation marks studio or who holds the IP. It is made by caps lock living people, not an entity that exists as an idea." End of the quote. Well, that's a good point. Indeed, a studio doesn't make games. A studio doesn't have hands and can't code. Probably that person is a game developer himself, and it upsets him that often his work gets overlooked. And it is understandable. So, let's discuss who develops games. And you may ask, why it is important to understand who develops games? It is important because it helps to understand the industry and establish the culprit for when a studio fails multiple games in a row. Now, going back to the point that the person in the comment section have made, it is true that people are the ones who develop games. For example, BioWare that developed Mass Effect Trilogy and BioWare that developed Dragon Age The Veilguard are two different studios under the same name, because the people who developed Mass Effect games left, and new people, less talented, took their place. But if that is true, why people are talking about studios? Well, because it is still important. I'm gonna speak for myself. I'm talking about studios because it still matters, and a lot. Personally, when I talk about studios, I'm talking about people in charge, such as executive producers, game designers, game directors, lead writers, etc. Why aren't the other people important? No, it is just the influence of those who is in charge shape the final product. The studio can have the best staff in the world, consisted of the most talented, passionate and creative people. But if the boss says that you need to do the job in one particular way, the employee must obey, or they might lose their job. They simply don't have the liberty to act on their own accord. They have no influence on the final product. The influence on the project of the top management compared to simple employees is enormous. It is only natural that some employees have more influence on the quality of the game than others. For example, let's imagine that the game has not the best sound designers. Would that be bad? Well, it surely wouldn't be great. But a bad sound design probably won't make a 10 out of 10 game in a 9 out of 10. When, for example, if the project has bad lead writers, it can make a 10 out of 10 game in a 5 out of 10. Don't get me wrong. To have good sound design is important, but not all aspects of the game are equally important. Some are more important than the others, and that's okay. So, when we're speaking about game studios, at least I am talking about the people in charge. People whose views are affecting and shaping the final product, the game. And when the people in charge are incompetent, the game fails. Now, before we move on, let me quickly promote myself. I make videos on a broad variety of video game topics, such as, for example, top 6 games that I'm excited about, and you should too, everything we know so far about The Witcher 4, or Objective Veilguard critique, and many more. So leave a like and subscribe to the channel to not lose it. Let's move on. Now, at the same time, because some aspects of the game are not as equally important as the others, the blame should also not be shared equally. That's why when some studio gets closed entirely, I find it kinda unfair, because it is often the mistakes of small group of people that led to disaster. Personally, I usually see a lot of games failing on the stage of ideas, meaning the plot is boring, the open world is empty, and stuff like that. And on the stage of performance, they're good. For example, Dragon Age The Veilguard technically was not a bad game. It didn't have major bugs and stuff like that. It was just boring, uninteresting, repetitive, etc. Yes, there are games that are bad on the technical level, such as for example Stalker 2 and Cyberpunk, but technical issues can be fixed. When the issue is on the idea level, it can't be fixed. You can't. It's like when you fry potatoes. If the potato is raw, you can fry it longer till it's good. If the potatoes are burnt, you can't unfry them. The same with games. You can fix bugs, but you can't unscrew Dragon Age the Veilguard. So, when a game fails, often it isn't the staff's fault, it is the management fault. However, the staff comes and leaves, and the management often stays. And since they have much more influence and the rights to IP is also important, it makes sense to talk about studios as the developer. I personally am keen to look at the last 10 to 12 years period of the studio to measure the successfulness of it, because it is approximately how much time it takes for the studio to replace all its stuff, including the management. And that's why I don't like when I watch a video by other creators and they start talking about the games that the studio released in the 80s. It actually doesn't make sense. Now, to conclude it all, yes, it is important to remember that it is people who make games. But we also have to look at the larger picture and see the people whose views are shaping the final product. Because those people have the power to control the direction of the studio and how the game will look like. So when a game is good, it is everybody's merit. But when a game fails, it is the management's fault. Because with great power comes great responsibility.
Your favorite Marvel Comics hero? Mine is Superman. Remember the motto? With great power comes great responsibility. Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you again at 6.
Now, I want to thank my subscribers. Recently, we have reached the 200 subscribers mark. So now I can say that we are a small community. And I hope that one day we'll grow to actually influence the industry. That's my goal. And that's it for now. If you aren't subscribed, you can join us. So subscribe to the channel and leave a like. And you can watch other videos on the channel. See you later.